From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
Well, good evening, everyone. Let's get you through Kruger's Quickcast. If you're just looking for a quick look at the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, well, you've come to the right place, and then we'll go into more detail after that. Here's what we expect here for tonight. Temperatures in the upper 60s, mid to upper 60s. So we're starting off with some fairly cool mornings, or cooler mornings. Temperatures mainly in the 50s for the higher elevations and mid 50s for many of us along the coast here. As we take you out the door tomorrow morning at about 8 a.m., maybe you're heading out to work, or we're getting close to getting those kids off to school as well. Temperatures low 70s for the valley. Still looking at some of that patchy fog and really dense in some spots here for tomorrow morning. Temperatures in the mid 60s though for Trinity County, Siskiyou County, and not to mention for Modoc and the eastern mountains. Still a little smoky there, especially out to places like Chester and probably even Susanville. That smoke will continue to push itself off to the east, northeast of the fire. So 5 p.m. Looks like it may push a little bit to the north of Susanville tomorrow afternoon, but still right around or just north of the Chester area as well. All right, so here's our forecast for tomorrow. Those temperatures are going to be, right around or just above 100 degrees in the valley. Mainly 90s, but some of the cooler spots will reach the upper 80s for some of those higher elevations. Then, of course, those temperatures along the coast, well, there you have it. Low to mid 60s. That's the same story pretty much day in, day out. We take a look at that 7-day outlook for the valley. There's that downward trend, upper 90s, mid to upper 90s by Sunday in the valley, and dropping even more for early next week. For the coast, low to mid 60s the next 7 days. Inland, also the downward trend. And really, the downward trend is going to be the case, minus the coast here, for everyone. By the time you get in the mountains here for, say, Sunday, Monday, you're talking temperatures mainly in the 80s and mid 80s at that for Mount Shasta and Alturas in particular. Hey, I want to remind you that if you want to get the latest on the fires here, you can go to the fire danger section here and you can get all the information you need in one convenient location, from the fire perimeter, from where the how much acreage the fire is burning, to where evacuation orders and warnings are. It's all right here. And if you want a more detailed forecast and look at the fires, I do a very detailed look at the fires during Coffee with Kruger every morning, weekday mornings at 7 a.m. And if you want to watch that throughout the day, all you have to do is click on this banner right here and then click on the video, and you can watch the detailed forecast, and not to mention the detailed information on the latest, at least for the morning hours, for, in particular, in this case, the park fire. So check that out, weathernorcal.com. Just scroll a little bit below the main live streaming video, and you'll get all of this information right here. Let's take a look at our weather headlines. The cooling trend, it has begun. Hard to believe, but yes, it's begun. Slight dip in our temperatures throughout the weekend, even cooler by next week, and no significant rain or thunderstorms are in the forecast. That's good. We don't need the lightning strikes. Now we take a look at the winds, and the main thing that we look at for the winds is there going to be any kind of wind event? And at this point, no. It's the same song and dance, right? We see the winds die down overnight, they pick up in the afternoon, and that's the case here through the weekend. Humidity levels, well, they're going to still be fairly low here by the time you go into Friday afternoon. Taking a look at Saturday, we see some recovery overnight, but still very dry. Now, I will say this, especially as the temperatures start to drop more into the 90s for the valley in particular, we are going to start to see those humidity levels go up a little bit here, and that should be some relief from the fire weather risk, and even for the fires, the current fires. So as we take a look at the fire weather risk here for Friday, there you can see it's still kind of in that high range, especially for the north end of the valley. Where you see yellows, you can see it's beginning to drop into that moderate range. So as we go into Saturday, you'll notice the fire danger not quite as high for the valley and not quite as high for the mountains as well. And again, one of the reasons being is temperatures are starting to drop. We'll probably see it drop even more going into your Sunday, and especially by early next week. Now, the fog is still staying fairly persistent along the coast here. It's having a hard time burning off here through the afternoon tomorrow. We're going to see some puffy pop-up cumulus clouds in the afternoon tomorrow, but I still expect it to remain dry and no thunderstorms at this point. Taking you into Saturday, There it again. I mean, that fog is having a really hard time burning off on the coast, but we are seeing some pop-up cumulus clouds in the mountains. Now, sometimes when we look at Futurecast, sometimes you may eventually see it pick up on the potential for showers and maybe even some thunderstorms. So it's not entirely out of the question for Friday or Saturday for places like Siskiyou County and Modoc County, and maybe even parts of eastern Lassen County to see a stray shower and an off chance for an isolated thunderstorm. But for now, I'm not putting it in the forecast, and really honestly, I'm just not concerned about it at this point. Now, another thing that I track is the monsoon moisture that we have typically this time of the year over the desert Southwest. You can see the afternoon thunderstorms popping up pretty much every day through next week, but none of that moisture is working its way over us. That's important to note because that means we're not expected to see any thunderstorms in the long-range forecast. And the good news on top of that, temperatures are dropping. There's the area of high pressure shifting down to the south and east. That all because we've got a weak trough of low pressure right here. It's still warm, borderline hot air that's going to be over us, but is pushing the extreme heat down to our south and to the east. And eventually we'll see a reinforcing shot of cold air that'll move mainly over Canada, but it is going to try to migrate southward by the middle to latter part of next week. That'll drop our temperatures probably even more. We're talking low to maybe some mid-90s here for the valley. So we have some cooler weather to look forward to. And the Climate Prediction Center is picking up on that. We look at the long range over the next 10 days plus. You see the area blue right here? That is picking up the potential for below normal temperatures. And in fact, we look at the 10-day trend for Redding, and we will be. The normal high for Redding is 99 degrees. By the time we get into Sunday, we'll be right around normal, and we should most likely stay below normal through all of next week. Yes, 90s, not hundreds, but 90s. Low to mid-90s for most of us on average in the valley here through all of next week and even into the next weekend. Now, doesn't that sound nice? And again, keep in mind, when those temperatures go down, humidities tend to go up at least just a little bit, and that is at least a little bit of relief and help for the firefighters. So there you can see here as we take a look at our wave heights, kind of the same thing here as well. We're just not seeing much change overall. And as we take you into your Saturday afternoon, still about 5 to 6 feet as you start kind of heading out further into sea. All right, let's take a look at your marine forecast here for today. For tomorrow. Northwest winds at about 5 to 10 knots. There will be some patchy drizzle, though, as we take into late tonight and early tomorrow morning. All right, so we saw those forecast lows for tonight. Kind of another reminder, it's going to be much more pleasant. Temperatures mainly in the mid-60s, give or take, depending on where you are, and in the mountains in the 50s, some low 60s, and low to mid-50s out along the coast. Let's take a look at your Trinity County neighborhood forecast, and of course, the 7-day outlook. When you see these, the main trend for almost everyone, and I say that because the coast is always the exception, right? But we are going to see those cooler temperatures, especially by the beginning of next week, and that'll last well into, if not all, of next week. There's the coast. Temperatures staying in the mid-60s, give or take, mainly under mostly cloudy skies. Could see some patchy clearing at times over the next 7 days. We take you up to the north, out towards Del Norte County, Smith River about 69, 66 for Oric, and there's the cooler temperatures in the 80s inland to around 90 by Monday through Thursday of next week. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, those temperatures dropping down into the mid-80s by early next week and staying that way through all of next week. 93 for a high tomorrow in Alturas as well as for Bidwell. 91 in Cedarville and Tule Lake, about 90 degrees. Let's take you off into the eastern mountains where there will be some haze and smoke just depending on where you are. But overall, those temperatures will be in the mid-90s, give or take. Some of the cooler spots, Viola, 83. Mineral, about 87. And Paradise, about 94 degrees. And your valley neighborhood forecast, as you can see, those temperatures could drop below 100 degrees. As we've seen, some of those Delta breeze influenced areas tend to stay just below 100 degrees, but not the case for Redding with a high of 102 degrees tomorrow, 103 for Palo Cedro, and Whiskeytown about 98 degrees. And looking at your 7-day outlook for Redding, we're down to 99 degrees on Sunday. Look at that. We'll basically average out through all of next week in the mid-90s, give or take, for the valley. So things looking much more pleasant. Have yourselves a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning for a 6 a.m. update. And don't forget Coffee with Kruger live and interactive, especially if you're on social media and YouTube, on Coffee with Kruger at 7 a.m. Have a great night.
Cottonwood Small Animal Clinic is one of the only clinics in the area that can see your pet same day and for evening emergencies. We're always striving to improve the care that we give to your pets.
Here at Cottonwood Veterinary Clinic, we have 10 brilliant doctors here to provide your pet with amazing collaborative care, from not only your dog to your cat, but also your gecko, your horses, your goats, and your cows. Come on down and see us. Both clinics are located in the heart of Cottonwood.